Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Open Range. My name is Patrick Hart, and I'd like to first say thanks of course to Gary Emineth for giving me this opportunity to host, and thanks for the sponsors who pay for the lights and that camera. Hey, what a week this week. We're coming up on July 4th and America's 250th birthday, and I think that's pretty cool, and I'd like to be the first one that says happy birthday. This will air, however, after the 4th. You guys, this week, I think hypocrisy is going to run a little deep. If you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, President Trump and Secretary Burgum are going to make a journey back to North Dakota, and they're going to open up the Presidential Library for Theodore Roosevelt. Now, I'm going to admit, I had to do some Googling on Teddy Roosevelt. He was very much a man of the land, and I think that was thanks to his time in North Dakota. He has been quoted saying, "The rights of the public to the natural resources outweigh private rights and must be given first consideration." While he was president, he established 150 national forests, 5 national parks, the first 18 national monuments, and the U.S. Forest Service. So, Secretary Burgum's trip to show off Teddy Roosevelt's Presidential Library and North Dakota to President Trump is highly hypocritical. Secretary Burgum opened up national parks to private hunting and fishing. Secretary Burgum directed the whitewashing of national parks by erasing scientific information, by erasing Black and Indigenous history. Secretary Burgum has drastically increased approval for applications permitting drilling on federal lands, selling land leases. And Secretary Burgum moved to open the entire 1.5 million acre coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to oil and gas leasing. So, the hypocrisy runs deep. Living your values is in fact something President Teddy Roosevelt did. It seems though this lesson has not yet been learned by Secretary Burgum, who's coming back to North Dakota to show his buddy his shiny new toy. Now today, I have 2 guests that do live their values. I have District 31 Senate candidate Kelly Pilman and PSC candidate Scott Kelsh. How you guys doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Very well. Yeah. What are your thoughts? July 4th, what are you guys doing for the holiday?
Oh, it's a super exciting holiday when you live in Mandan, North Dakota. We host one of the biggest 4th of July parades in the state. It's a week-long celebration. The Mandan Progress Organization has a flag the size of a football field, an American flag that will be carried down Main Street in Mandan, followed by a North Dakota flag. And that's a new addition this year, and it's really exciting.
Scott, plans for the 4th?
I will be at the Mandan Parade as well, participating along with other statewide candidates.
I've been watching the float is getting put together in my shop, and it is 10 out of 10. Bob Valou and the crew did an absolutely great job. Have you guys ever paraded with Trigby Hammer?
I never have,
No, I haven't.
Trigby runs back and forth from side to side, handing out candy. It's magical, the amount of energy he puts into that. So I hope you guys get a chance to do that this week.
I think we're all marching together. I hope we get to see that in action.
Yeah. How's the campaign been? Have you guys done a lot of parades, or is this kind of the first one out of the gates?
For me, this will be the first one of the season. But we've been doing a lot of other type events across the state, town hall meetings, candidate forums before the primary, and a number of meetings with just various constituent groups. We've been attending some REC board meetings, things along that line, and just listening to constituents.
Now, Scott, I'm going to pick on you for just a minute. When I was running for lieutenant governor, I loved going to those board meetings to learn about, IBAND and how all these kind of tertiary organizations act. What did you learn at the board meeting last week?
What we learned was that any new data center that's being proposed to be serviced by a rural electric cooperative is going to be required to pay for all of their power costs up front. Oh. That is an REC policy, which I thought was very good news.
I'm going to pick on you I'm not picking on you to do that. I'm picking on you to understand better. What does that mean, paying up front? Like, does that mean paying prior to them getting electricity for the month?
It means partially providing for some of their own power needs, whether it be an off-peak generator or on-peak generator that on site. There's some discussion about micronuclear plants. Of course, with nuclear, you have the problem with waste disposal, spent rods and so forth. But there are some innovative things that are being done in order to facilitate that. And what that means is the local RECs aren't going to pass along those costs to their existing ratepayers, which I think is very important. The data centers are paying their own way, essentially, unless, you know, as long as they're on an REC line.
And they should.
They should.
Yeah.
They should.
How was your event? I saw you were in Fessenden last week.
We were in Fessenden, last week or 10 days ago or so, but it was a very nice event. It was held at the Wells County Fairgrounds, Festival Hall, very nice facility. We had all of the statewide candidates there. We participated in a back and forth. Some of these town halls haven't been really, it's kind of a reverse town hall. I think John used that phrase as well, John Peterson, the other person who's running for Public Service Commission. There were some questions, but they were more about listening, what people are thinking, what they're saying, and then processing that information and giving feedback based on that learning. So I think it's a learning opportunity for us as candidates, and it's a very good opportunity for residents and citizens of North Dakota to be able to weigh in to their public officials or potential public officials.
Oh, that sounds great that you guys are out listening. Kelly, what have you been doing to prepare for office this fall?
We are running in District 31 in 4 counties, and a large part of that is rural. We have participated in the Mott Regent All-School Reunion and walked in the parade in Regent. We walked in the parade in Elgin. We have gone to Native American powwows or wasipis. We are looking to do more with the indigenous population on the reservations in District 31, as well as taking every opportunity we can to get out in those communities. And then we're going to be marching in the Mandan 4th of July parade too. And Mandan itself covers 3 districts. But once again, it is the largest parade in the state of North Dakota, so we anticipate a really big crowd, especially with this birthday year for the United States.
Well, you got to help me out. So District 31, right? Senate?
District 31,
And
yes.
District 31 would be Mandan South?
It's south of Mandan. It's a kind of a cut-up chunk of Mandan. We've got some...
Here we got it on this.
Very good. We've got some of the northern tier up by the interstate, south of Mandan, then Sioux County, Grant County, and Hettinger County. Towns like Flasher, Elgin, Mott, Regent, Standing Rock, Cannonball, Porcupine, and then portions of New Leipzig. It's a lot of land area, and we're sparsely populated, but it is one of the things, when we've gone to the polls to vote before, we haven't had a choice. One of the reasons I'm running is I think people deserve a choice. And in District 31, I'd say for the last 10 years, they've had one choice and it's one party. And so they have won over 90%. And I think that is when democracy dies, is when there's no choice.
Well, I'm glad you're giving people an option. And it seems like you're kind of where the West begins, right?
Mandan is where the West begins.
So we were talking before we came in, you're a rodeoer, or you have proximity to that your whole life?
I was raised in a 4th of July. I was raised in Mobridge, South Dakota, which is the home of the Sitting Bull Stampede. I now live in Mandan. Rodeo's been a sport I've followed. I'm not a rodeoer, but I was raised on a small farm east of Mobridge, South Dakota. So I have rural and ag in my background and in my blood, and we currently live rural too. We don't have livestock though.
Tell you what, I'll ride a bull if you do barrel racing.
Yeah,
Can we trade
exactly.
And Scott, now I understand, and I'm not 100%. You grew up kind of central southeast?
I did. I grew
rural
up
too?
in Dickey County in a little town called Fullerton, population 55. Now, it was 110 then. But Dickey County, incidentally, is also the home for the first data center in the state. It started with 3 buildings. Now it's expanded to 5. I'll give you a little example of how this is affecting our local communities. In my little town, hometown of Fullerton, rooms in 100-year-old houses that haven't been updated in probably 60 years are renting at $1,000 a month. And 5 rooms being sharing 1 kitchen and 1 bathroom. These are people that are working on constructing the data center, There's talk of man camps being built, so it's kind of like the oil boom is coming to these places where these data centers are being constructed, and a lot of the residents are being caught off guard. They really don't know what to do. There are some upsides, and that is people are able to make a little extra income from renting out their house to people who are working there, but it's definitely creating some disruption, and it's kind of a ripple in the fabric of life that we've been accustomed to since statehood.
I was surprised. We did some work we built a shed for a wind energy company down by Linton, and we couldn't find a room in a 60-mile radius to overnight there, so we had to day trip. And that is a lot of stress on your local economy.
Right.
Good and bad, right?
Right. Good and bad.
So when's the last time you got to go home?
I try to make it home every weekend. Both my parents are in their 80s, and I try to visit them as often as I can. My dad can't drive, so I drive him around to get groceries and so forth, and visit my mom, who happens to be in a nursing home nearby. But having grown up there, it has given me a real knowledge and background in what rural life means. My dad and mom were farmers. My mom is a retired English and German teacher. And so we had that flavor. We know what that's like. We know what it means to be a farmer, and we lived through the 80s ag crisis. That's actually when my dad stopped farming because it drove him out of business. But I feel fortunate in having that background. I now live in Fargo. I was in the legislature serving a district in Fargo for 18 years. During that time, I was also on the Taxation and Energy and Natural Resources Committee. We can come back to that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that after this quick commercial break. Thanks for tuning in.
So, Michael, when you take a look at smaller coins, I mean, it's one thing to invest in it for the world's falling apart, and I need to be able to have something to be able to barter with. And if I have a big bullion cube, a big block, 100 ounce or whatever, it becomes difficult. But sometimes you probably have a mix in a portfolio if you want to be one of those people that take possession of it. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is an awesome question. And I always say there's a dance between price and size. So I'll kind of look at the two buckets that you want to have, covered. One is your long-term buy and hold retirement kind of type, retirement account purchase of gold and silver. The multi-year buy and hold stuff that you don't plan on taking out. You don't want to withdraw your metal from your IRA. You want to leave it in there. You want to protect yourself first and foremost. But of course, the last couple of years, protection actually pays very well, of course. So larger bullion bars, that's what my retirement account is. Okay, it's kilo bars, 100-ounce silver bars, the stuff that you'll pay the least for, because think of it as like, buying in bulk, right? The bigger the bar, the cheaper it is to make, the less you'll pay, the more ounces you'll get. Smaller items have a role in everyone's portfolio, but it's more as like an insurance product. It's not so much I'm holding it long term to make the most money. You want to have it in case of some kind of an emergency, but you don't buy insurance thinking or hoping that you need it. You buy it in case you do. So silver coins, I've got a bunch of them in this safe here behind me. I can go down the road and barter with the farmer for eggs or produce or meat or whatever I need in that kind of disaster scenario. So you want to have the insurance bucket ticked. That's the smaller, more transactional type of bullion items that you want at home, at your fingertips at all times. But then the longer term buy and hold, retirement account, wealth preservation type stuff, you want to be in the larger, bigger products that'll allow you to buy more ounces. That's our strategy, and that's what we work with. And everyone's got a little bit of a different situation. So finding that balance between price and size is our goal in working with every client.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming back into TV land. My name is Patrick Hart. I get to host this week's episode. And today I have Scott Kelsh running for PSC and Kelly Pilman running for District 31 Senate. Scott, you were kind of talking about your youth when we broke off there and growing up in small town.
Growing up in a small town, we also had livestock. We had horses. We had I think a very, what I would call a privileged life in some regards, because even though we weren't wealthy by any means, but we did have access to those kinds of things, and which a lot of kids didn't.
We grew up on a farm in the 80s, and there was no money. There was no new trucks. There was no new equipment. You know, it was a big thing to get a new pair of pants from the Sears catalog. Boy, how times has changed, huh?
But times have changed, certainly. And when we're talking about data centers right now, they're very new, relatively on the landscape. The Public Service Commission does not currently have regulatory authority over data centers. But what we do have, or I shouldn't say we, but what the Public Service Commission does have authority over is the supporting infrastructure, power lines, gas lines, and those types of things. And there's a lot of opposition to even those supporting infrastructure things because there's a JetX power line, which is designed to run from Jamestown down to Allendale, where the data center is being constructed, has faced fierce opposition. In fact, there was a local legislator who introduced and passed a bill that would cut the locals out of the siting process. So it fell to simply the Public Service Commission, who approved the pipeline last week, and even though the case is in front of the Supreme Court.
Interesting. So much for local control, huh?
Right, yes.
So why PSC? Why now?
Well, in my time in the legislature, as I said, I was 18 years, which means 9 sessions since we meet biennially. I was on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee in my entire time in the legislature. And we started in that process in 1996 when I was first elected. Most of the issues in front of that committee were about hunting. Since in that time, it transformed into about energy issues with the oil boom, with the need for more energy in North Dakota. So I have a pretty good understanding, at least policy-wise, what needs to be done to support our energy industries in North Dakota, but we also think we should be talking more. I noticed that the legislature has formed a committee recently to study data centers because they really want to try to get their hands around it and try to understand what the impact is. And I think that hopefully there can be some good legislation that will come out of that will return some of that local control and will ultimately grant the PSC some oversight in the siting of and construction of data centers.
It seems like when we talk about regulating data centers that the PSC gets brought up again and again and again. And I think, in my opinion, they should have jurisdictional authority over that. There should be reclamation like there is on my lands. I feel like that was a significant missed opportunity with the oil play. We didn't quite regulate that enough. I'll go ahead and say that. There should be reclamation. We are seeing abandoned wells. And it just seems like the PSC should be all over that. There should be setbacks. There should be a more broad approach to doing this. And you seem like you're positioned real well to make that change.
Well, thank you. And I completely agree. What we missed also when I'm a big wind energy advocate, and that has really taken off in North Dakota, but we missed the opportunity to enact legislation that would ensure decommissioning, that the developers of wind projects would pay into a fund, and then should they for any reason be non-existent when the project is ending its lifespan, that this fund would be used to help pay for the decommissioning and return the landscape to what it was before the wind farm was there. We should be doing the same for data centers. We should require these data developers to pay into a fund, because who knows what technology will come along tomorrow or in a week or 2 years from now that will make them obsolete. And
Sure.
That could happen. And then what happens to the data centers? They're just an empty hulk sitting out there.
I think it's also very important that we slow down a little bit. Our past governor, Art Link, when he oversaw North Dakota during the coal gasification era, said we need to slow down the approach. We need to preserve our environment. We need to preserve our landscape and the lives we live, our water, our energy. Data centers, we need elected officials to not sign non-disclosure agreements. We need transparency in our government in North Dakota. And that's one of the reasons I feel the need to be out there running is I think there are so many, it's seeming like ulterior motives, people who are getting rich quick, gaining something. And leaving the people of North Dakota behind. We need to know the mitigation when those plants are emptied. We need a community benefit. Some counties have something in place, other counties have nothing in place. We need, as a state, when they're talking about multiple data centers coming into the state, we need a statewide comprehensive plan as to what's happening there. And when you look at small towns, you understand. When we toured the data center in Allendale, that's impacting as far as Aberdeen. You can't get a room in Aberdeen. Small towns are dying for that economic boost, but it's going to be 2 or 3 years, then what happens? With that boost also comes a need for maybe more roads, maybe more law enforcement, maybe more housing. This shouldn't be pushed on us overnight in 1 week, 2 weeks. We need to be thoughtful and move forward and ask some hard questions to these companies coming in, because I'm tired of seeing the cream being skimmed out of North Dakota, going to other states and making the rich people richer. Well, we can't fund our schools, we can't have rural health care, we can't maintain our roads. North Dakota is a rich state with a lot of resources, and North Dakota deserves a cut.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, I want to piggyback onto that too. In Dickey County, the local county commission was asked to sign non-disclosure agreements with the data center developer, Applied Digital, which is a huge corporation. So by the time the residents found out about it, the cranes were already being moved in, the construction was already happening, and they're scratching their heads going, wait, what is this? What's going on? Why didn't we know about this? So they're completely caught off guard. We need to end that, and I think that's a policy decision that the legislature will have to make.
You know, we had Trygve Hammer and Katrina Christensen. I'm sorry, you guys. I call her Senator Christensen. Last week, and kind of a topic that we discussed was about the federal election delegation simply doing nothing. And I hope that that's not the case here in North Dakota. And I hope that this study and this commission actually comes out with some findings and some, you know, a framework of how to regulate this. Now, Scott, I'm going to jump back. You said you were elected for 18 years?
That's correct.
Do you have a piece of legislation or two that you were able to put your name on that you're proud of?
When I retired from the legislature, I was given a folder with all the bills that had my name on them. That took me. But that's what 18 years will do. The legislation I'm probably most proud of is we changed the taxation method by which wind energy would be taxed in the state of North Dakota. So it would be the same structure as what was done for other types of electrical generation, same as coal, based on the output of these generation plants. So the taxation is based on the kilowatt hours generated, and it's the same for all forms of energy. That was probably my because we came into the legislature in the late 90s. We were told that wind energy will never work. The lignite industry shot it down, just a study. And we came back 2 years later, and the Lignite Energy Council was on board because they saw the opportunity for some synergy between the two in order to develop better transmission, particularly out of state to places like Minnesota.
You know, we just took a drive last week. We went up to Hazen to hit a round of golf, me and my wife. And I mean, talk about an energy corridor of the state. There's wind energy, there's coal, it's going off up there. And I noticed that the signs had changed from 24 to 26, and it used to be about eminent domain and taking land for pipelines, and now it's about the data centers. So it's kind of interesting that as a Democrat, I see a lot of what we're fighting for happening in that kind of Republican district.
And that same concept is still, landowners' rights are still going to be a big issue in rural districts. Because of what's happening. It's almost like that good neighbor thing. In North Dakota, you know, if you were raised rural in North Dakota, you realize the benefits of good neighbors because it helped us survive back when times were tough, right? My folks bought their farm in '44 before there was water, before there was electricity there. So we realize the benefits of having neighbors who help us. But now what we're seeing is neighbors selling out for millions of dollars, moving out of state. We've seen it in oil country. The people in Williston, Watford City were left there to deal with the remnants. Well, the people took the resources and ran. And we don't want to see that in North Dakota. We want to be able for our children to live and thrive in North Dakota. And we want the surface owners to have some rights too.
Absolutely.
I agree completely. What I like to say is, for too long, we as a state have been letting things happen to us instead of making things happen for us. And that's why we need good elected leaders who will stand up for our citizens, for our residents, for the people who built our towns, people who built their farms, built their communities, their schools, their fairgrounds, their churches, their businesses. Those are the people I'm standing for, by the people, of the people, for the people.
What is one thing that you've heard when you've been out door knocking that people are telling you they need to fix with PSC?
Well, one of the things is if you take a drive south of Jamestown along 281 and go down to the Allendale site, you will see signs along the road, no eminent domain for corporate gain.
Yes.
My land, my choice. These are these are landowners that would probably tend to be conservative and probably generally vote Republican, but this year they are taking a very hard look at who is really standing up for them, who is listening to them, who is not ignoring them. And that's where I think why it's such I'm so heartened by having a full legislative team running, and why we have a great slate of statewide candidates that are also talking about the same issues. So we're hopefully that we can reach across and pull some of those votes, because we are the ones that are listening.
Well, I appreciate you guys running. We'll be back after this commercial break.
So we talk about silver, and we talk about the concept of using it from the health perspective. How did you, Jeffrey Adam, come back to the silver as being that health product, and how does it differ, mycronic silver that is, differ from the other products that are maybe saying they're made with silver as well?
Well, I was blessed enough to meet a gentleman who was a nuclear biochemical engineer. He was proclaimed one of 8 in the world. And he introduced me to silver when I had gotten pneumonia. And it was actually my 4th time in 6 years getting pneumonia. And every time I got sick, it basically took about 3 months to get over. And, massive amounts of prednisone and Z-Paks and a whole lot of money to take 6 months to be fully recovered, where I got my wind back. And when he introduced me to the silver product he had that he made himself, literally in 3 days, the next morning the pain in my lungs was gone. And in 3 days, I was where it took me 6 months of antibiotics to get to. And that's when I was like, well, we really need to start doing something with this. And this gentleman said, no, they will kill you. They don't want you to have it. You're affecting their profits. And that's when I started doing the deep dive into a colloidal silver, which was used for thousands of years. And then as it progressed, they went to an ionic silver, which is a silver ion, not a particle. And then from there, they went to a nano silver, which is a nano particle of silver. And through my education through this gentleman, I learned that, as you're looking with particles of silver, the colloidal silver, when you hear these stories of people turning blue with a condition called ageria, it was from particles that were over 10 parts per million. So when you do a colloidal silver over 10 parts per million, they start forming bigger structures. I equate them to biofilms. They're not actually a biofilm, but they create larger clusters that aren't absorbed into the body. And then people would go out in the sun and it would dye their skin a bluish gray color. And then I looked into a nano silver, and nanos are particles, and they're subatomic particles, and they're changed with static electricity or current, because you can't spin a metal or a mineral fast enough to break it apart. And they're changed with current. Well, when you're sick, your body becomes acidic, and your bodies are polar. So if it's changed with current, it can be flipped and made toxic with current too. So I stayed away from the nano silvers. So that just left the silver ions. And these products have been used for hundreds of years. When it came to the ion and any silver, it's only active in the body for 6 to 8 minutes. When I developed mycronic silver, we made a product that is actually active for 8 to 10 hours. And there's a whole big story behind it.
Thanks for making it through that commercial break. I am Patrick Hart, helping co-host or host this week's episode of Open Range. This week I'm with Kelly Pilman, District 31 Senate, and Scott Kelsh, running for the North Dakota Public Service Commission. Say that last segment we kind of ended on data centers, eminent domain, going down south on 281, which is a beautiful road. If you go east about 10 miles and follow that river, that's even more gorgeous. Kelly, what do you think? Do you have any carryover thoughts?
I do. We toured the facility in Ellendale and saw some of the transformation that's happened in Ellendale, and I recognize why it's exciting. One of the things that really concerns me with data centers and I guess coming into North Dakota is the tax breaks North Dakota is giving to multi-billion-dollar companies when we don't have the resources or the funding for our schools, our roads, our health care. Our governor has our state budget at a 3% cap. Our education's got a 2.5% increase. North Dakota needs to fund North Dakota. And if data centers want to come to North Dakota, our communities have to benefit from that. We have to tax them, they have to pay their way, and they have to be responsible for mitigating any damage they cause to our environment.
Absolutely. My data center story this week, at our shop condos, the garbage can, if that lid is open 2 inches, the company takes a picture of it, AI determines that that's an overage, and then they auto bill us, and we're on auto payment. So I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
And this is what AI is changing our society for, so I think we definitely should tax them.
We should not only tax them, we need to study them and see what they're doing to us, our privacy, and our children. And I think we're so worried about the infrastructure and the bills and the things that are happening here that we're not thinking 5 years, 10 years down the road. And we need to look 7 generations down the road to see what's happening to our environment, but we also need to see what it's doing to our society.
Sure.
And our privacy.
Now, I'll tell you, we're kind of slamming on these data centers, and I talked to both of you yesterday and this morning. I'm not anti-data center.
No.
I just think we have to do it the right way, and you guys really
Slow
echoed
down.
that as well.
Exactly.
So Kelly, tell us just kind of about you. What got you into this? Why are you running this cycle? Maybe why are you qualified?
I'd love to tell you all those things. One of the reasons, I've always been interested in politics. I have followed them since my youth. My parents were FDR Democrats. I lived on a small farm east of Mobert, South Dakota. When my parents moved on there, we didn't have water or electricity. In my lifetime, those things came to the farm that I was raised on. And they came through RECs, cooperative, and rural water cooperatives. So I've always seen the benefit of collective. I stop and I think about the term public. I'm a strong believer in public education, public services. I believe in people over power and profit. And I think that's what's led me to the Democratic Party. I think that's what led me here and my desire to serve. One of the other things I think I see so frequently in politics, in North Dakota politics, federal politics, it's who you know, it's how much money you have behind you. I don't have a business. I don't have a large farm. My children are raised, I'm retired. I have time and I care about North Dakota. North Dakota gave my children an incredible education and start. I want to see that happen to the next generation. I believe in public education. I think it's being devalued in our state. Over 90% of our children go to public schools. They are pulling money away for private schools and vouchers. In rural communities like District 31 will represent towns like Flasher and Elgin and Mott Regent, we're already seeing consolidation. We're already seeing difficulties in getting and retaining teachers. North Dakota's 41st in teacher pay. You know what? In the oil field, when they needed workers, how did they get workers? They paid them. There's not a shortage of teachers. There's a shortage of salaries.
Sure.
There's a shortage of respect. There's a shortage of support. Public education is one of the most valuable things we as a society produce for our children, and that's a big part. You know, one of the other things that really, I guess 2 more that made me want to run, when they voted down school lunches and increased their own per diems, who doesn't want to feed kids? That just makes me crazy a little bit. And the other thing is when they decided they wanted to come after librarians for what people check out at a library. Number one, it's a little backwards to think your child is going to be run astray by a book in 2026. I think there's a few other ways, especially when we talk about data centers and technology. But that's the sort of legislation we've seen passed in our state. I think we can do better. I think our constituents deserve better. I know our children and our people deserve better.
You know, when they were talking about libraries hot and heavy during session, I kept thinking to myself, I would do anything to get my kids to set their iPads and their phones down and read a book.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think that anything that they're going to read in the library is worse than the transcripts of what Ray Holberg was up to over in Grand Forks.
That's an exact fact. Libraries are one of your basic last free spaces and one of your starts for early childhood learning. And one of the places we really fall short in North Dakota is early childhood learning. And they help bridge that for us. And I think that's an area where we're going to, you know, in the world you either pay for education or you pay for incarceration. Sure. And both things are important in your society, but I would certainly like to see it way heavier on education and get, our prisons are full of people who can't read.
You know, going to pivot you, just ask you a quick question. What's something that maybe you noticed that made a big difference in the communities that you lived in?
People who care and love a community. I think of the Mandan Progress Organization in Mandan, North Dakota. Matt Shenandoah is the director of that organization. They host the Haunted Fort. They host the Mandan 4th of July celebration. Most recently, they've added the park lights for the holidays. That is an organization that works together to bring that community together and do so much public good. It is such a benefit to everybody on Main Street and everybody in that community, probably in the Bismarck community as well. It is just a real testament to working together.
Well, and I think you guys can both agree with this. There's something special about a community that acts like a community, that comes together, that celebrates together, things like 4th of July parade. Scott, do you remember anything that happened, you know, growing up that you look back on and think they really had their SHIT in a group?
Well, what example I will point to is the 2009 flood in Fargo, where the whole community came together. Students were dismissed from school. They helped sandbag. They helped save the community. I mean, we were that close to opening the interstate both ways to come west to Bismarck. And the mayor at the time decided, no, we're going to fight it, and we succeeded, just barely. That, to me, showed a real coming together of a community. Secondly, I would echo what Peggy said, and that is the public school system is another example, fine example of what makes a community great. Since I retired as a firefighter, I've been working in the public schools, and I see teachers that are working their tail off, and they're not being compensated well enough. Oftentimes they have to buy their own supplies, they have to buy their own treats. They're constantly working to deal with some challenges that students present. I work with special ed kids, and what I like seeing is when they become independent, more independent than they were when they started the school year. To me, that is a success story too, because that's what we want to do, is turn out students that are able to best take care of themselves and try to mainstream those students as much as possible, meaning they're in the regular classroom rather than a special instruction classroom.
You know, kind of openly ask you guys both this question. We hear a lot about government and overregulation and the role of government in society. How do you guys really think that government and society should interact? Do you feel like we're at a balance, or?
We are at an incredible imbalance. I think one of the things that's out there is people think of Democrats as tax and spend, right? How many times have you ever heard that? We realize there's a pool of money. The difference is in priorities. The difference is who you put first for that pool of money. And I don't believe large corporations should get a tax break when our children can't get a meal or an education. Government is essential, and taxation is kind of a net zero summation. We have to have taxes to fund it, but it has to be fair and it has to be equitable for everybody.
I agree. I think government, in my view, is the voice of the people. That's what it should be. We are supposed to be listening to the people, reflecting their values and speaking up for them, rather than, Paul Wellstone, who was from next door in Minnesota, was, he was a liberal, but he listened to all of his constituents, and that's why he was admired and respected, even though people didn't agree with him all the time. But at least they knew he was going to listen. And he used to say, I represent the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party. So
Yeah.
he said, the corporations already have representatives. I'm the people's representative.
In the North Dakota state government, it has been over 70% a strong Republican majority for about the last 20 years. In our district, there haven't even been choices. There's less than 11% Democrats, so you don't have balance. Everybody should have a seat at the table, so you hear all the options. 25% of our state legislators are women. Once again, not representative of our state. Equal representation with voices for everybody at the table. And you know what? The corporations don't need a legislator to stick up for them. They can hire everybody, all the lawyers in the world, right? I mean, North Dakota was 6th in wind production. When Doug Burgum was governor, that was one of the things he pushed for. We became 6th in wind production. He moves to Washington, D.C., and he decides wind is bad. You know what? You need a steadiness, you need a common voice, you need rational people making rational decisions, and I hold that the Democratic Party has a lot of rational people.
Well, I appreciate that too. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Sorry for talking too much.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together, but you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. So I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza. Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
We are the St. Mary Sisters. We are building a new facility here in Bismarck, North Dakota, for the sake of training young women to be courageous teachers in this state. The sisters will educate the younger generation to be fully alive through truth and discipline. The sisters' life of devotion and joy will make a positive difference in your community. Check out what we're up to, see what's going on, and join our mission to make a difference in the lives of the children of North Dakota.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
Welcome back from that commercial break. My name is Patrick Hart, and today I have Kelly Spillman running for District 31 Senate and Scott Kelsh running for North Dakota Public Service Commission. Now, Scott, you're running for PSC. What's unique is that you have a teammate, John Peterson, running for PSC as well. How is that with two candidates running for the same office?
That's correct. There has been a lot of turnover on the Public Service Commission. I am running for an unexpired 2-year term that was vacated by our current member of Congress, and then a replacement was appointed by the governor, and she has yet to stand for an election. So we're both kind of starting from square one in terms of running for the Public Service Commission.
Is that nice, having a running mate you can bounce ideas off of?
It's very nice because we're able to share a lot of resources. We are kind of running as a team. John Peterson is a professor of economics and history at Mayville State, and so I like that he brings that depth and breadth of knowledge, the economics factor of the energy infrastructure in North Dakota. I have experience as a firefighter, as a hazardous materials technician, an EMT, all part of the same job description, but also as 18-year veteran of the North Dakota Legislature, where I worked on energy issues a lot over those years.
Well, that's what I thought when I heard, I've known John for a couple of years. Yeah, economics professor, Scott, 18 years in office already? That seems like quite the electable crew. Yeah,
it is, yes, I agree. And we're hearing some things across the state. We're feeling in energy. I think the ground is, you can feel the ground shifting in some areas. And I mean that figuratively, but of course, what we're hearing is, yeah, we're fed up. I've heard Republicans say, we can't have any more of this one-party rule. It's hurting us, it's killing us. We need people that will listen to us. We're being sold down the river. Quotes like that are from people that would normally be automatically vote Republican or conservatively. And they're coming to us and we're listening. And I think it's a very positive sign.
Well, I've been involved for about 10 years, and I've definitely seen a shift in the way that we, as Democrats in a supermajority Republican state, have been received on the parade routes, out in public, at the gas station at Cenex in, small town North Dakota. And there has been a shift. I think it is needed, and I think the organization as a whole is very well put together. We have a full slate of statewide candidates. Here in Bisman, you can talk about the Bisman Dems. Full slate in all of our districts?
We have 15 candidates covering 6 decades. It is a wonderful, diverse group, and we are working as a team. And out in the communities, when we're going out to canvass, when we're walking in parades, when we're going to Standing Rock, people are thanking us for stepping up and for running because they are so tired of being underrepresented. And it is so exciting and so heartwarming. Getting out and meeting and talking to North Dakotans is such a fun experience. And it really reinforces the fact to me that we are far more alike than we're different. And we have this society that is divisive and is almost trying to teach us to dislike each other. And you know what? In North Dakota, we don't dislike each other. We are friends and we are neighbors, and we know when there's a blizzard. When I was a rep and I would drive out in rural North Dakota, heading out to Williston in January, and I had 5 children. I might have been 6 months pregnant. I always knew if I broke down, somebody behind me would stop and help me. And you know what? It might be a competitive rep, but you always work together, you pull together when you needed to. And I'll tell you what we need right now, North Dakota, we need to pull together. What we need to do is we need to vote. We need to talk to our neighbors. We need to civilly discuss politics. We need to discuss what's happening in our communities. We can get through this and we can make North Dakota better. But no one person can do it and no outsider can do it. We have to do it as a community and as a state.
I love it. Can I ask you both, what's your vision for the state of North Dakota? Where do you want to bring this thing during your tenure of public service?
Go ahead.
I want us to be one of the best educated states in the nation. I want us to have a great economy where 4 of my children don't leave the state to get good paying jobs. They come to this state to get good paying jobs. I want us to have health care for all of our people. I want this to be a safe environment, and I want our natural beauty in the state preserved.
Scott?
Let me go back further. I made a mistake last segment. I called Kelly by the wrong name. I'm sorry. But I completely agree. It's a coming together process. That's why I see our vision. Just because the Public Service Commission doesn't set policy doesn't mean I'm not interested in it. And I'm very interested in education. I'm interested in healthcare. I'm interested in transparency. No more secrecy. No more NDAs. Our Attorney General candidate, Tim Lamb, often says secrecy breeds corruption. And that is exactly what is happening. We like to think we're not a corrupt state, but there is corruption happening under our noses. And we need a strengthened ethics commission that's properly funded, and we need to be able to root out the corruption as we see it and uncover it. And I think that's kind of where I see the state going if my vision was to be enacted.
And so, what's Tim's quote you just said?
Secrecy, I think he either says begets or breeds corruption.
Well, and that's almost the same thing. I've said that competition breeds honesty, which is the same thing, two different directions. So I'm glad you guys are both running for office and challenging your opponents. Maybe haven't had that for years. What are some things that maybe you've seen on the campaign trail that you would like to share or tell about?
The welcoming. I would say, as a Democrat in North Dakota, we felt like you can't step up and speak out. People are very welcoming, and they want to be heard. They want to share their ideas. They want to have a voice. They want transparency. I think we think everybody in North Dakota is honest, and I like to believe that, but I think we all need checks and balances. You know it in your own life, you know it in your family, you know it with your children, you know it in your community. Checks and balances make life better.
Yeah.
Yeah, same, very much similar. Like I said, we've experienced the landowner organizations that are feeling they're not being listened to, or if they're being listened to, that they're being ignored. I think that there are people out there that are feeling, well, what's the point of voting anyway? Nobody listens to me. I think the enthusiasm that's being generated this year is something different. There's a different feeling about it. And I think this election is very critical to making sure our state heads in the right direction. And that means less corruption, better understanding of our voters and our constituents, and enacting policies that make sense for all North Dakotans.
Rethinking our priorities. Not making out-of-state billionaires a priority by tax breaks, and rethinking the priorities for North Dakota residents.
Well, as you look at the nation too, when we start talking about corporations and tax breaks, it's really a race to the bottom. Because if North Dakota's doing it, then South Dakota might do it, and then Minnesota's lowering corporate taxes. And at the end of the day, we have, like you said, roads to pave, schools to keep open, state infrastructure. So I don't understand why you would want to race to the bottom.
It's so interesting to me that it's this concept of millionaires versus billionaires. When people say tax the rich, we've got all these people, because there are lots of millionaires now, right? A million versus a billion. A million is 11 days, if you measure it in time, and a billion is 32 years. And I think part of our problem is we cannot mentally grasp how big a billion is. And now we've moved into a trillion. There is no reason for anybody to have that. Nobody is that smart. Nobody has worked that hard. Nobody deserves that while others aren't eating and aren't safe and aren't housed. And we think we are a Christian state or nation, and those of us that are Christian, that is wrong at so many levels for me and for my beliefs. And I think we deserve to, our neighbors deserve our care.
Absolutely. Well, and that comes back to, you mentioned Paul Wellstone, everyone does better when everyone does better.
Everyone does better.
Scott, can I give you maybe 2 minutes to make a pitch on why to vote for
One of the
Scott
dangers
Kelsh?
we haven't talked about AI or challenges, I should say, is that it'll be displacing jobs. Jobs that are requiring human beings right now could be displaced. One of the ideas I've heard floated, and it's been floated by the world's first trillionaire, Elon Musk, who said, maybe we ought to think about enacting a universal basic income so that everyone at least has a safety net. It would generally replace the current safety net, but it would be a way to maybe allay some of the job displacements and so forth. It's only a small step to having universal health care from there too.
Absolutely, and it just seems strange to me that Elon Musk, first trillionaire, is talking about having universal basic income. He ain't giving that money back though.
No, he's not.
So Scott, why are we voting for you this cycle?
Well, as I've crossed the state, I've seen and heard people who are frustrated, who feel that their elected officials aren't listening to them. In fact, are actually undermining them in some cases. I think that we need balance back to state government. Should John and I be elected this year, we would be the first time of having a Democratic majority on the Public Service Commission. We think we can do some real good with that. We think we can enact regulations that follow the voice of the people rather than that of corporations. I ask you for your vote in November, or early voting as it may be. And I think that together, we'll work together and make a stronger North Dakota.
And Kelly, can I give you that same question?
Yes, you sure can. I like your vote because I think I represent a change and a choice. It is so key to be engaged and pay attention. If they are coming after public schools, never think that they won't come after Social Security, that they won't come after Medicare. When you look at privatization, and that's what trickle-down economics kind of breeds, is that privatization, that they think that's going to do everything better. We have to work for a common good. We have to be our brother's keepers at some level. And you can look at small towns all over America and see how their main streets die because trickle-down economics don't work. People take that money and they go somewhere else. You can see the billionaires who are not giving back. So I'm a voice for change, but we need your engagement, we need you to vote, and we need you to care about North Dakota like we do.
Kelly, Scott, thanks
Happy
for tuning
birthday,
in today.
America.
Happy birthday, America. Thank you.
You guys both got my vote.
Thank you.
Sorry, I went over.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. Join me on the trip and unearth the stories on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations of American citizens like our forefathers did.
$27,000 in credit card debt.
Okay. You have to radically do something different because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting.
Come on in and experience small town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and a team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. Facet Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Hello, friends. This is Culture Crossroads. Join me, Andrew Southwick, and my co-hosts, R.C. Williams and Juliana Ormond, as we tackle the issues shaping America. From politics to pop culture, to faith, freedom, family, and the future. From a faith-based conservative perspective that you won't get anywhere else. We stand at the intersection of faith and freedom. This is Culture Crossroads. Culture Crossroads, Sundays at 5 p.m. Central on Bet TV.
Hi, I'm Scott Hennon, host of the What's on Your Mind program on Bet TV now. From Baker, Montana to St. Cloud, Minnesota, and everywhere in between. We're looking forward to having a conversation with you about what matters most. We're talking to newsmakers from members of Congress to the state legislature, and most importantly, the good folks that make up the great state of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana. Every single day, you get a chance to tell us what's on your mind. And now you can watch What's on Your Mind live on Bet TV.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.